95% of all living things on the planet gone. Many species extinguished forever. That's the estimation. Good morning and welcome to my daily walk, the daily half-hour podcast where an anonymous Hollywood guy walks and talks about anything except those things he's contractually obligated to conceal. And if you want to get in on the conversation, suggest a topic or continue a topic or give your own point of view, email. That's the way to get a hold of me. Come straight to me. I read them all. So email me at MyDailyWalk at thiswaytv.com. That's MyDailyWalk at thiswaytv.com. If you're new to the program, I am actually walking and talking. And I am a Hollywood guy, I guess. If you have listened to any of if you haven't listened to the Thursday shows, because that's the theme of Thursday, it's Hollywood Guy. I talk about my experiences or my understanding or, just things that I've learned. I'll inject into every episode some of my experiences. Inevitably, it'll come up just because that's the world I'm immersed in. And perhaps I'll be bursting bubbles for many of you about the glamour. It's sure there's plenty of glamour somewhere. But anyway, I digress. So welcome to the show, and it's a learn as you go. It's unfolding. I think it's unfolding nicely. I've gotten into a routine. I do this every day. I go out for a half an hour walk. I try not to edit. When I say try not to, I don't edit. All I do is put a couple filters and export it, send it to the guys that post it, wherever they post it. I'm trying to be as hands-off as possible. I'm just going to pontificate or opine or expound extemporaneously. Why? Well, for many reasons. But let's be honest, if you find it entertaining, great. Then you don't need any other reason than that. Inevitably, some people may, most people won't. That's fine. I'm not doing it to entertain, but not as my primary goal. I'm going to get myself in the weeds going down in that direction. But it's been unfolding. We've got pretty much themes lined up for each day of the week. Today is, I guess we can just call it Topical Wednesday, because I didn't think of a theme for the week or for the Wednesdays. Thursdays are the Hollywood guy telling Hollywood stories. Tuesdays are life lessons by some experiences I've had. Yesterday's I actually rather enjoyed remembering a few things about that experience. So if you didn't listen to yesterday, go back to yesterday, because as I reflect, memories come back to me that I had forgotten about, and that did happen genuinely in yesterday's show. Friday right now is Freeform Friday. The show's brand new, up and running. Emails will be coming in. There is a delay to production, so if you email me right now, your email won't be read, or it'll be read by me as soon as, within a day or two or within a week of receiving it. But as far as when it'll be read on the show, there's a delay. I'm not going to tell you how long the delay is, because I don't yet know necessarily how long it will be, but just so you know, if you do email, your email will be read on the show, but not next week. if you're hearing this, it won't be next week because there's a delay. I'm recording and there's an offset to when they're posted. Okay, so that's just some programming notes for your information as as we're up and running here. So let's get to today's topic. 100 billion nuclear bombs. Now that phrase entered my ears several weeks ago. It was an article written, and I didn't read it. It was somebody I was talking to or listening to mentioned it. Gosh, I don't remember who it was or where it was, but I remember what it was about. So 100 billion nuclear bombs. Forgive me if I said million at any time. It was 100 billion nuclear bombs. Now, what is the most devastating force invented, concocted, discovered by man, human beings? A nuclear bomb, right? A nuclear bomb. I can't think of anything of greater destructive capacity that humankind has come up with. We pause at this juncture because I'm like, if I go that way, there's a big truck. If I go this way, there's a weed whacker. If I go that way, it's the way I just came from. That's the problem with my daily walk. Finding tranquil, soothing environments where I can keep my train of thought. All right, I'll just go over here. It's a small park. Maybe I'll just walk around this park 15 times. Except there's somebody sitting on a swing talking. All right, I'll just go back the way I came. Okay, back on track. 100 billion nuclear bombs. Humans, in all of our ingenuity and creativity, I'm pretty sure that's it. That's kind of the extent of what we can do, the damage we can do. I don't think we're out there discovering bigger nuclear bombs. I mean, I could be wrong about this, but nuclear bomb is about the extent of the damage we can do. And it's, it shouldn't be, I'm not downplaying it by any means. The destructive capacity is, for life, for any living thing, that's the extinguisher. So what's this 100 billion? That's an exponentially larger than human capacity destructive force. Well, the article was about it was a scientific article, I guess conclusively stating that was the equivalent force of the meteorite that wiped out the dinosaurs. Okay, so exhaustive, extensive research. That's the conclusion that the impact of that meteorite on the planet. Gosh, I didn't read this article, but I am somewhat of an amateur science enthusiast, and so I know a little bit. So there have been multiple events in the history of the planet, and that one was. I'm not even sure if that was the most significant. It may have been, but it was either 33 million years ago or 66 million, 67, something like that, 66 million years ago. And it eliminated or killed 95% of all life on the planet. It came down and in lightning, split second. It's a meteorite. Those things are flying at Those things are cruising through the solar system and the galaxy at, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of miles an hour. Somebody fact check me and email me to tell me the details, specifics, but hundreds of thousands of miles per hour. Well, that's a point of reference from Earth. Like, what's an hour? It's 24 hour. It's the rotation of the Earth, and it's broken into 24 units. So, out in space, speed is relative, I guess. But no, speed is not relative. Sorry, I'm not going to go into relativity here. But imagine you're standing there, and you're just walking along, and dust. I mean, we've seen the nuclear explosions, seen all those test explosions out on the islands in the ocean, and just this giant cloud of dust and debris and nuclear fallout, whatever, rises gradually in the air. Well, it starts very quickly. That's an explosion. An explosion, the beginning is the fastest part, and then as it spreads, it looks like it slows down. But can you imagine? I mean, if you're anywhere in the proximity, it's like lights out, you didn't even know it happened. But if you're at some distance able to observe, it's just this is a split second, total devastation globally. And you may ask, inquiring minds may wonder, how, it just hit one spot on the planet. How does that devastate 95% of life on the entire planet? Well, mainly the atmosphere. If I recall some of the details correctly, the impact didn't, well, don't quote me on this, but it didn't shift Earth's orbit from, around the sun, but may have tilted its axis slightly. Again, that without any show prep and verification, but I seem to recall that that's some of the impact. So powerful it may have even tilted the Earth's axis slightly, but it throws up a huge cloud of debris into the atmosphere that remains for months, maybe years, and blotting out the sun. And so you can imagine all life. There's no life without the sun. That's one of the fundamental principles of life. You got to find a light-bearing star that provides the heat, etc., from which life derives its energy. That's a terrible scientific sentence. But when you blot out the sun, you kill plant life, you kill life that depends on plant life, and you kill life that depends on the temperature range. So a freezing, colder climate destroys a lot of life. Actually, a warmer climate causes life to thrive and flourish. Well, a warmer, wet climate. So, boom, species extinct, many in the blink of an eye, and many others over whatever time period that dust cloud blotted out the sun, and whatever other gases released into the atmosphere. Oh my gosh, there's a leaf blower. Maybe you can't even hear it. I'm aiming the mic, the recording device, away from the leaf blower, and I'm trying to skirt this street. I don't like pausing because I don't like editing. I like to keep my train of thought. That's funny. Keep my train of thought. Anybody who's been listening to this so far knows that me keeping my train of thought is a rarity. So, on that note, where was I? 95% of all life gone forever from the planet. Now, in thinking about this, in my speculations and ruminations, kind of hinted at it when I was asking about or talking about the greatest destructive capacity of humankind. Greatest destructive capacity of humankind. And there's a lot of that. There's a lot of talk to that effect every day. I mean, for my whole life, there has been that voice of kind of panic, caution. Humans, if you don't get your act together, you're going to destroy the world. And it's an animating force, and it has been, even in my life from a young age. I do remember being conscious of it as a young teenager, and I don't know, speculating about it among my friends. But that's decades ago. But it hasn't changed, that same tone of panic. And it's understandable that tone of panic, in one sense, wouldn't change, because you're talking about lifespans. Human lifespans are like a breath, like a vapor in comparison to the age of the... Oh, there we go. We're going to go on another tangent. Email me with that topic, the age of the planet, universe. It's a whole nother topic, but going by the scientific method and discovery that a human life is but a vapor compared to time immemorial. And so you can be panicked 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago about the world coming to an end as a result of human activity. But there's a problem with it. I mean, I get panic. I understand panic. You know, humans are very, very innovative and creative and powerful in certain regards, but 100 billion nuclear bombs didn't destroy the planet. Didn't destroy the planet. And were humans alive at the time, then ain't nothing we can do about it. I don't know if you... there were a couple movies, in particular Armageddon, Bruce Willis, Ben Affleck, that decades ago. Wow, how long ago was that? But, you know, there's the idea, if there's a meteorite heading to Earth, what are we going to do? Well, let's go up and blow it apart before it gets here. I do believe that there are, at some point, will be the technology available to maybe do something of the sort. The problem is detecting a meteorite coming toward the planet. You gotta have eyes everywhere, in every direction. And I do have a friend that's an astrophysicist, and I haven't talked to him about all these things, but one of the topics, maybe I've mentioned it before, but I had asked, well, that's a guy that is looking out in space. He's working on dark matter. That's one of the biggest question marks left in scientific discovery, is what the heck is that stuff? We know it exists. What is it? And so, like, the next Nobel Prize in physics will probably be related to that, or, you know, up and coming. He's working on one that may be nominated. Anyway, that's a tangent, but you can't look in every direction. You just can't. There aren't enough eyes, much less telescopes, to look in every direction. So they're always scanning the skies for things. They're discovering them all the time. They get announced, oh, there's an asteroid that's going to come near the Earth, and it's going to miss us by 38,000 miles. It's like, that's not close. No, that is very close, comparatively. But I don't know if any have ever come that close. Maybe I just pulled that. Maybe it's 38 million miles. That's close in the scale of things. Just to be able to, just to notice it before it got here is an achievement. And so, putting it in perspective, if there's a meteor heading straight to us right now, we don't know about it. And I don't, it's not something we could do anything about, even if there were. But that's not a fear that we should be concerned about. But because we can't do anything about it, and because we can't know it at this point. But what I'm trying to do in this episode is to put in perspective the destructive nature of the human species is a blip. If 100 billion nuclear bombs didn't destroy the planet, didn't even knock it off its orbit, might have tilted the axis just a little bit, filled the atmosphere with destructive fumes and gases for who knows how long, didn't destroy the planet. Didn't. This planet is just here. It's just gonna stay the course. Here's a few details I do know. In the age of in the history of our solar system, there is in the Earth in particular, and its proximity to the sun, there is an optimum window for life to exist. Okay, what scientists do when they look out into the universe, they're looking for quote unquote potentially habitable planets or exoplanets. And the list of criterion for a potentially habitable planet, here's the media's dark secret. That list of potentially habitable planets, or that list of criterion to determine whether a planet is habitable, been a pretty short list of criterion. It needs to be near this kind of star. There's all kinds of different stars, so it needs to be near this kind of star, within this horizon, and it needs to be in a temperature range that could contain liquid water. And that's it. Like, oh, there's a potentially habitable planet. It's close to that star, and it could have water on it. There are way, way, way more criteria necessary for a planet to be habitable. Just take my word. So, in that study, in that research, it has been determined that in the history of the Earth, there's a window where the Earth is habitable. You see, the Earth is escaping the gravitational pull of the sun in the same way that the moon is escaping the gravitational pull of the Earth. Every year, every moment of every day, the moon is getting gradually further away from the Earth. At the same time, the Earth is getting gradually further away from the sun. Okay, so it's just we're in this orbit being flung about, and over the eons, that orbit increases, gets larger and larger and larger, until one day in the distant future, we're just beyond even the sight of the sun. So there's that window of habitability for the Earth, at least that heat window where liquid water, optimum for habitation. It's a 300 million year window. In the age of, a 13, 14, 15 billion year old universe, is that right? Trillion? Gosh, get my billions and my trillions. I know the Earth is like 4.5 billion and the universe is trillion. Yeah, it's, I think. That's terrible, gosh. Yeah, amateur scientist. Or amateur science enthusiast. So, there's a 300 million year window. Where are we right now in that window? Fascinating detail. We are in dead center of that window, where 150 million years ago, the Earth's orbit around the sun entered that habitable zone where liquid water is possible, where it's just the optimum zone for any living thing, and particularly human. Some life forms don't need quite as robust an environment to support them. We are the most complex beings, but there are simpler life forms that could exist in different temperature ranges, etc. But that window began 150 million years ago. We got another 150 million years before out of it. So, interesting detail, if you're looking at the scale and the age of the universe, and you're focused on a 10, 12-year period, a 30-year period, a 150-year period, even a 10,000-year period. All right, I have got to pause this because this truck is going to be way too loud. So let me pause this. Hold on. All right, truck passed. So if you are focusing on as much as just a 10,000-year period in Earth's history, I'm talking about temperature ranges and viability, sustainability for life. You are looking at a very, very small corner of a very large picture. You can look at temperature ranges of the Earth, and the Earth has been much warmer than it is right now in the past, and it has been much cooler than it is right now in the past. And so we're either at the beginning of an ice age or the end of an ice age. I mean, some scientists will argue we're actually at the beginning of an ice age, and that to me is bad news, because when things get cold, things die. When things get warm, they live. Yeah, I just made this hugely controversial statement. When the world gets warmer, life flourishes. I'm just talking about science. That's just the facts. So getting back to this friend who's the astrophysicist, I asked him point blank, forgive me if I've said this already in the podcast in another episode, but I asked him, if the polar ice caps melted, what would the damage be? What would be I didn't even say damage. I mean, what would happen? How high would sea levels rise? Right? That's the big fear. Sea levels are rising. We're all going to drown. Is the implication? Well, first of all, it would happen very, very gradually as temperatures just incrementally tick up. And if the caps were to melt, he said maximum sea level rise globally would be about 7 feet. 7 feet. That's like just... Oof, I've just walked into a noisy zone. Good grief. I'm going to pause again. You'll have to forgive me for pausing. This is like the first time I've paused a segment. You may not even hear the stuff. It's just distracting to me. All right. Sea levels will rise 7 feet. That's like a little over a foot above my head. Now I can look forward and see an incline in the street, just right here where I'm standing. It looks like from here to down there in that corner, the street rises another like 3 feet. So it's right around my knees or above. That's just on this one street. Like, terrain rises and falls a matter of feet in a very short distance, and it doesn't even feel like I'm walking uphill. Like, it's so gradual. And so when you go on the beach and you look at the incline of the sand from the water's edge to the back of the beach, that in itself could be anywhere from 2 feet to 30 feet right there at the beach front. And sure, there's plenty of places on the planet where it's a real flat area. Even the whole island might not be more than 7 feet above water, but those are extremely rare circumstances. All I'm saying is the worst that could happen if the temperature rise is unstoppable and the ice caps melt. It'll take 100 to 200 years for that to happen, and technology will be way ahead of it, and people living in those places that are endangered will not be endangered because they'll have seen it coming. I'm just saying there's nothing to be afraid of.